Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Brew Club. As usual, I am Mike Pittman. And joining us this week, we have a special guest because we're going to make a special brew this week. It's Bill Reddy from Brewery Lane in the Coker's Meadow Plaza in St. John's.
Right.
Torbay Road?
Yep.
On Torbay Road. Ken has sort of taken a break this evening because Bill has dropped by. I guess you must be the beer expert in the family, are you? Or how did this work out? Because we're going to be making an all-grain beer this week. It's we're not going to use any cans or any artificial ingredients, or I guess we could say, or anything like that.
That's correct. Yes.
All-grain beer.
All-grain beer. Yes.
You've been doing this for quite a long time, from what I understand.
Yeah, I've been brewing now for about 25 years, I guess, Mike.
Oh, really?
Yeah, brewing beer and wine and making wine.
So was this before you could get malt in a can?
Oh, no. I'm not that old, no.
Okay. But when you did start doing this, obviously it wasn't as recognized a hobby as it is today.
Oh, no, not a bit. I mean, it's after becoming a long way since I first started brewing. You know, when I started brewing, we used the small, I guess, cans of John Bull that you'd find in the supermarkets.
Yeah.
And you mix up some sort of a, I wouldn't call it beer, maybe an alcoholic beverage. And that's how I started, but I gradually became very interested, and I moved on from there. And about, I guess about 10 years ago, I started, getting involved in all-grain brewing, and I've been doing it ever since.
Really?
Right.
So is that the only beer that you make now? Would be all grains, or do you?
I would like to, but not really. I do. Sometimes all-grain brewing is a sort of a long process, usually about 6 to 7 hours.
Right.
And sometimes I don't have the time for that, so I will, make it from malt extract.
So we're going to take that 6 or 7 hours, I guess, and trying to condense it down into about an hour for you folks at home this week. As we said, it is it's a longer process. It does require a little bit more equipment, obviously.
Exactly.
Because we're going to get into things like cracking grains and all kinds of interesting stuff. So we've got a lot of stuff to show you. We're not going to be able to finish it in a half an hour.
I don't think so, no.
But we will endeavor over the next couple of shows to show you how to make an all-grain kit. So I guess the most important ingredient in an all-grain kit, Bill, would be grain.
Well, exactly.
And we've got a bunch of bags over here that you've brought in.
Right.
I guess first of all we should explain we're not going to make normally I guess with a can of malt extract we would be making what 5 U.S. gallons or 23 liters. 5
U.S. gallons, yes. But because of the extra work and time involved and resources, we're going to make a half batch. We're going to make a 12-liter.
12-liter batch.
And you can always multiply from there if you want to make a larger batch.
And you can see all the bags I'm pulling out here. I've got 4 different bags now. Let's talk a little bit about what ingredients we're going to use. What type of beer are we going to make?
We're going to make an English-style beer. It's called a brown ale, and an
English brown ale.
A brown ale or a mild ale. This beer is quite different from our local commercial beers. It's a brown, of course, brown color, and it's sort of a malty beer with just a very light hop finish. And this particular one we're making here has a sort of a subtle nutty flavor to it. Okay,
let's talk about some of these grains here. We've got 2 bags. These are I guess the major ingredients, because we've got, what is this, about 2 pounds?
Yeah, actually this is about. I'm in metric, Mike. This is about
You're in metric, okay.
This is about 1.5 kilograms of English 2-row pale malted barley.
Welcome to Canada. 1.5 kilograms. I'll hold this up. English 2-row barley. Now, I don't know if you've ever looked at the cans of malt that you get. I know that the one that we made an English bitter a few weeks ago here on the show, and I was looking at the ingredients on the can, and it's the same English 2-row.
Yes.
Grains that they make it with. Is that one of the more popular ones that they use?
Well, that's the most popular. Of course, that's the most popular malted barley used in England.
Yeah.
And just about all English beers use pale malt.
So what would it be in Canada?
Well, Canada has pale malt too. Canadian pale malt is usually lighter in colour than the English pale malt.
Okay.
And Canadian pale malt comes in 2-row and 6-row. This can be.
What's row? Okay, what's row?
Well, basically, barley are the seeds or the kernels from the barley plant. There's two varieties of barley used in malting, and one, of course, has 6 rows of kernels on it, where the other has 2 rows.
Oh, so it just describes the plain.
Yeah,
and
and,
anything else.
basically, 2-row is usually has less enzymic power, and you get more yield from 2-row usually.
Okay, we've got, this is the next biggest one. This is crystal malt.
Crystal malt is malted barley, but it's it has been put through I guess a kilning process, which caramelizes the sugars in it and makes it gives it that's what's going to give our beer a sort of a nutty flavor.
Okay, and I'll hold these two up. I don't know if the camera can get a shot of this, but you'll notice that it is, I don't know if the camera can pick up the slight difference in color, but the crystal malt that I'm holding here is just slightly darker, and you can see how when you say it's been roasted and caramelized a little bit, it comes out a little bit darker than what this would.
Right. Okay. If you break open the crystal malt inside, there is a sort of a caramelized sugar inside. The pale malted barley, even when you break it open, there's sort of a biscuity flavor, I guess starch in it.
Okay.
And what we're going to do tonight is to convert that starch into malt sugars, so we can ferment it and make beer.
And I guess, would it be safe to say that this is chocolate malt, by the way? There's only about a couple of handfuls of this here.
Yes.
Is this what gives us the brown in our brown ale?
That's going to give us the brown in our brown ale, and it adds, just as the name says, it does add a sort of a chocolate undertones character to your beer. Yeah.
Okay.
That's again is pale malted barley, but it has been roasted to a higher degree than your crystal malt.
It has been roasted.
Yes. Okay.
So this is kind of dark. This is the brown in our brown ale. So what is the first step? I've noticed we've got a bunch of cups here as well. You'll notice that we've got a couple of envelopes of yeast, I assume.
Yeast, right,
Brewer's
yes.
yeast.
Right.
Now this doesn't look like the stuff that we get in our regular kits. Is this a special product, or?
Well, there is many varieties of yeast. This is just a different variety. It's good for English-style beers.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's many varieties of yeast.
We haven't brought the envelopes along because it looks like in each of these cups there are four cups sitting out here on the table, and there are. It looks like.
Right. Those are hop pellets.
Hop pellets.
Yes, and
Three
we
different
have
kinds, or just?
We have actually just 2 different kinds. We have Fuggles hop pellets and Golding's hop petals. What we're going to do is we're going to use those at different times in the boiling process.
Okay, so that's pretty much like we did the Morgan's Master Blend kit on the show a couple of weeks ago, and we added hops during the boil. Then we added some Cascade hops, some leaf hops.
Yeah. There's a big difference in, of course, there's a big difference in all grain brewing than kit brewing because all grain brewing, of course, you have to add the hops, is a necessity to add the hops. The hops add the bitterness and the flavor. Okay. So in an all grain brew, you'd have to boil them a lot longer so you can, so you can get the hops, the hop bitterness out of the hop pellets.
Okay, and in this cup right here, we've got this is it's Irish moss.
Irish moss is
if we can get a shot of that or not, but there's Irish moss.
Right, Irish moss is actually a seaweed. It's
seaweed.
I think it's harvest in PEI is very, very popular. But what it does, it helps to. We add this to our boiling wort, which is the unfermented barley or mix. We add that during the end of the boil. That helps to coagulate protein and make it settle to the bottom of the boiler, and you end up getting a clearer beer and less chance of chill hazes.
It's like it's like finings that we would add to.
Yes, it's finings, yes, but it's added differently because it's where you add finings to a beer kit, you usually add it to remove the yeast that's in suspension.
Right.
This is added to remove protein because malt barley contains protein, and we have to try to minimize that.
Now, I was just noticing that you say it's seaweed. It smells like seaweed.
It is.
Is that going to put a taste on our beer? Or
no, that's
not going to affect it.
It won't affect the beer whatsoever.
Okay, and you'll probably see why as we start getting into this, because there are a lot of different steps. This isn't as simple as throwing a kit and some sugar into a bucket, as we said.
No, this is not for everybody. It's everybody's not going to want to spend 70 hours brewing, but people who really enjoy brewing and really want to get the best this is the way to go.
Okay, well, we told you at the beginning of the series if you were interested in seeing how this is done, well, tonight we're going to start to show you, and we'll show you the end results later on. But what's the first thing we have to do, Bill? I guess we have to...
Well, the first thing we have to do, we have to
open these bags.
Open those bags, and we have to crack the malted barley, because unless we crack them, the water can't get in to the starch to start the conversion.
So when you say, you mean that literally? We just have to crack them open as opposed to crush them or grind them up?
Yes, you wouldn't use, some people ask me, can they use a coffee grinder? But that wouldn't be appropriate, because the idea is to just crack the kernel so you can get at the starch inside, and you actually need the outside husk or kernel as a bed for when you get into the straining and sparging process.
Okay, straining and sparging process. I'll let you explain that later on. We've got these opened up now, and I noticed, I'll show the folks at home, we're just about to crack all of these. This just takes a couple of minutes, but you brought along another piece of equipment that we are unfamiliar with here in the world of kits and ground sugar.
Yep.
What?
This is basically a grain grinder. It's a roller type, which is recognized as the best sort of grinder or cracker to use when you're grinding malt.
It's actually kind of heavy, folks. I'll just show you.
It's all made
there.
of stainless steel, and that's why
you can take a look
it's
at
so
that.
heavy.
And that just grinds up the grains. We just drop it through.
Exactly.
This little.
And that gives the optimum grind that we're looking for beer making.
Fits nicely on the top of the bucket. So this is in no order because we're just going to mix them all together. Is that the idea?
That's right. They're going to be all mixed together, so it doesn't make any difference how you put them in.
Okay. So we just fill it up.
Fill it up. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll start the grinding process.
You'll start the grinding process.
Takes a nice heat to get it going, but
once it's going, it's a lot easier.
Yep.
Okay.
Although you might have to hold it in place, Mike, because it seems like...
Let me pour some of the chocolate malt in. Here we
seems
go.
like this is out of start.
Go ahead. And you can see, oh yes, it's starting to drop down in there.
Right.
Okay. I'll add some of the English. Oh,
okay, you can add some of that. Yeah, this is all dropping down into a bucket we have situated below here. Okay.
So this is it's 1.5 kilograms of English 2-row.
Yep, pale malted barley.
Pale malted barley. How much of that crystal malt was there?
We had 300 grams of crystal malt and 75 grams of the chocolate malt.
Of the chocolate malt.
Right.
So, are we following a recipe that you've developed, or is this out of a book, or did you,
This is a recipe that I don't know if I developed it, but I guess I modified it.
It's just some numbers that have worked for you, I guess, over the years. And,
Yes.
Okay.
That's the fun about homebrewing. You can have fun to experiment. Don't be afraid to experiment. If you get a recipe, it's good to have a good solid recipe as a base, but you can fine tune it to your own liking.
Right. Okay. Spin that around there and let it.
Oh, okay, Mike. I guess you can put the rest of it in there now.
Okay. One final bag.
As you can see, this can give you a bit of a workout.
Yeah, well, you get your exercise and make a beverage for afterwards.
That's right.
I can't wait to see what we end up with here. Is it going to look much different? We're just cracking the hulls of these.
Exactly. Yes.
Grains.
When you look at it now, you're going to be able to see the inside part of the barley.
Now, it's not a problem that I've got my hands on this. I'm handling this, because we're going to be boiling this. Is that right?
This has to go through a very long process yet. It's going to be boiled. It's going to be boiled for at least an hour. So
okay.
no bacteria is going to survive this.
Okay, so let's see what we've ended up with. let you put that aside over there.
Put this here. We're finished with this
I don't
now.
know if we can get a shot down into this bucket, but you can see that it's been cracked nicely. It's probably can't see it on the camera, but you can see, yeah. His hands are coated with flour now. And so that's it. We just cracked the hull. Some of them obviously have pulverized more than others, and that's okay.
Right.
But I guess the idea is not to turn it into flour.
Exactly.
That's right.
It's just the idea is to crack the grains in this.
Okay.
That's pretty well what it has done there.
Okay, so we used roughly, I guess roughly what, 2 kilograms of
We've used altogether, it's about roughly 2 kilograms of malted barley.
to make, and we're going to end up making 12
12
liters.
litres.
Okay, what's our next?
Okay, our next
what's our
step now, Mike, we actually begin the mash.
Begin the mash.
Okay.
Isn't there a song by that name a few years back?
I think there was, the monster mash. But anyhow, there are several ways of doing this. The idea is that you have to mix this with a measured amount of water, and you have to keep it at approximately 150 degrees Fahrenheit for about 1 hour.
So how do you do that?
And the way I do it in an insulated picnic cooler.
Really?
Now there's other ways of doing it, but this is the way that I find more convenient, the way I like to do it. Some people put it in an oven. You can put it in an oven and keep your oven up at around 145 degrees.
Okay.
And that usually does the job also.
Okay. So we're just going to add all of this to the picnic cooler.
No, first we're going to add the hot water. We want 3 liters.
Okay.
3 liters of water. The water has to be about 72 degrees Celsius.
72 degrees Celsius.
Yeah,
Now we've got
thermometer.
some water that's been on here, and we've got a thermometer in here.
Because that's where the lid was on it. The reading may not be 100% accurate right now.
Okay. Why is that? Would it be hotter or colder?
Well, I guess where the thermometer was in the pot and was touching the bottom of the pot.
Oh, I see. Okay.
That may have given you
Well,
a
let's
false
see what
reading
we've
there.
got. Let's see. Well, right now it's reading about 74.
That's perfect.
74 Celsius?
Perfect, that'll do, yes.
Okay.
Now we have to
Take
put
this out.
3 liters of that hot water into this container here.
Okay.
Now that's a
I'll let you
2-liter
grab
measure, so you're going to have to...
Just one and a half of these.
those, yes.
Okay. Now, have we sterilized this equipment? Because I know that when we've made kits in the past, beer or wine, it's always important that we've sterilized our equipment. Things
Again,
like this.
it has to be clean. You have to use, ordinary, sanitation. But it doesn't have to be sterilized because,
Right.
again, everything is going to be boiled for at least an hour.
That's just under 2 liters, so we'll take a little bit.
There is a possibility
that's-
that we may have to do some adjustments because
Right.
of the temperature.
And again, about half of this. So, and I'm guesstimating here. Does that matter? I'm saying this is about 3 liters.
That's okay.
That's good enough.
Yes.
So it's a forgiving recipe. Is that what you're telling us?
Well, to a certain extent, you can make slight adjustments.
Okay. And putting it in a cooler like this will help keep it at the right temperature.
Yes. This.
Okay.
When we close the cover on this, and this usually keeps it, pretty steady at the 150 degrees Fahrenheit or 66 degrees Celsius is the figure we're looking for now.
Okay.
When we add the grain, we want the grain to bring this water down to 66 degrees Celsius.
Let's just turn this so that folks at home can see what we're doing with it. We're just going to add the malt to this.
Yep.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, this is at 70 degrees now,
70.
Celsius,
Okay.
which is a couple degrees lower than we wanted, but I think it'll be all right.
Okay.
Okay, and Mike, it does make a difference, believe it or not, the temperature that you add that you mash in at, your strike temperature, because if you mash at a higher temperature, you usually end up with less fermentable sugars.
Okay.
And lower temperatures, you end up with higher fermentable sugars, and which gives you a beer with more alcohol for one thing.
More alcohol.
Plus, it's sort of a lighter tasting beer, a sort of a drier tasting beer.
Okay, so what's the ideal temperature? What are we looking
For
for?
this type of beer we're making, the ideal temperature would be about 62 degrees Fahrenheit, or Celsius, and about 150 degrees Fahrenheit.
62, but 150.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now,
Now it's going to cool down when we add this,
Oh, yes,
is that right?
yes.
Okay.
That's the idea, huh?
Yep.
So if you want to, you can stir that now, because we're not going to throw it all in at one time, because we want it to clump up. We don't want
Okay.
we don't want any dry spots.
Okay. So once we add this, are we adding anything? Ooh, I'm sorry. Are we adding anything else to it? Or just this?
Just this.
And how much of it are we adding right now? About half?
We're going to add the whole
2 kilograms.
grain bill here, yes.
Yep.
Right, yeah.
Okay, well, while we're doing this, because it's got to sit for about an hour after this, doesn't it?
About an hour, yes.
Okay, this is going to sit for about an hour. We're going to try and get it at about 62, as you said, degrees Celsius. So we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, hopefully this will have been sitting at the right temperature. We'll let you know how it works out right after this break. Welcome back to the Brew Club. Well, it's about an hour later.
Right,
Okay,
yep.
and we've put in this little cooler here all of our grains, and we've had it at a temperature of about
Approximately 62 degrees Celsius, or
approximately
150 degrees
62.
Fahrenheit.
Okay, and what are we about to do now? We're going to
We're going to do something
You used a word.
in brew speak called sparging. No?
sparging.
Sparging is we're going to rinse those grains to remove the sugars from the grains,
Okay.
the malt sugars, and then we're going to boil it up with hops, and that's the base for our
I
brew.
close this because it's important to keep it warm at all times. It's been sitting here for about an hour now.
Yeah.
And what has this process accomplished for us? What have we done with these grains? I mean, they've been soaking, obviously.
Okay,
What have
well,
we
this
done?
is what we're doing is called mashing, like we said before. Mashing is actually, we're mixing the pale malted barley with some warm water or hot
Right.
water. And what happens then, when the water meets the grain, there's a enzymic conversion takes place. Enzymes actually attack the starch in the pale malted
Okay.
barley,
Yeah.
and they convert it to malt sugars. And
So we're converting starch to sugars
Exactly.
that eventually are going to ferment.
yes, because
and
yeast
make
can't
some beer.
ferment starch, so you need to convert the starch to the sugars.
Okay.
So it will be.
So we've
fermentable.
got, you've noticed we've set up some more equipment here. We've got a large bucket of hot water here.
Right.
There's a tube going into this bucket here. I don't know if the camera can get a shot of that or not, but this is, what will we call this, our sparging tank? Is this
Yes, I guess
little thingy that spins around
This is
here?
our sparging arm. What this will do,
Yeah.
it will actually spray this hot water over the bed of grains. Now we got to take the grain from here
Okay.
and put it into this sparging bucket.
Okay, well, why don't I go
This
ahead and do
bucket
that?
has a little screen on the bottom of it, so the grain won't pass through the screen.
Okay, so what do? We just transfer it to the
Yeah,
bucket?
just I'll take
Okay.
this off, make it easier for you.
A slightly messy process, so we'll
It is,
just
so you might want to move this a little closer.
put that in. And what are we ending up with here, Bill? Let's talk about this in terms of comparing it to, let's say, making a regular kit. What we end up with here, this water, is going to be, is this going to be the same as what's in the malt extract can
Okay.
when we do it from a kit?
Yeah, malt extract is actually a concentrated brewer's wort.
Right, and we just add water to it, basically.
We just
in
add water
simplest
to
terms.
it. So I guess, the simple way to put it is that the malt you get out of a can of brew mix
Uh-huh.
is a concentrated wort. So it starts off something like this, and then they put it through evaporators to make a concentrated wort.
So
And then you add water to bring it back to its initial state.
So the obvious question would be, why do we bother to go through this process when we can just buy this mixture in a can?
Right. Well, there's many things, Mike. For one thing, you have much more control over the final beer by doing it yourself like this. You can add your own ingredients, your own hops.
Okay.
Another thing, when this wort goes through evaporators, like they do, when they can and package the malt, there is certain chemical reactions that can take place, and I guess the best analogy is, if you compare freshly squeezed orange juice to concentrated orange juice.
Right.
Well, this stuff here is the freshly squeezed.
Can I
and
just
the can
dump the
is
rest of this in?
concentrated. Yep.
Just dump it in? Okay. So, Okay. So
There you go.
basically, we have more control over the recipe, I guess would be one way of putting it.
Yep.
Is that the idea?
That's more control.
And
And another thing, we're adding fresh ingredients here, fresh hops. A lot of you know, canned brew mixes use hop flavoring and hop extracts, which are not,
right.
are not, it's not the same as the real thing, you know.
Okay. And we're almost out of time, so obviously this process we're going to continue into our next show. When we come back, we're going to start this sparging process. A couple of things to note. If you are going to make an all-grain beer,
Right.
no need to go out and buy one of those grinders. I guess they're probably worth a bit of money, but they can just grind your grains at your store. Is that right?
Yes, that particular grinder there, you know, could be very expensive.
Yeah.
There are, I think, corn grinders on the go that you can get, but if you haven't got one, you can drop into our store.
You can always get it at the store.
And we have free
this
use
is this the? I guess this is the best kind of beer that you can make is an all-grain beer. You end up with, you're using more natural ingredients. You have all the control over it.
Exactly.
This is the type of beer that you might want to enter in a beer contest, I guess,
Oh, yes,
isn't it?
for sure.
Tell us a little bit about that.
As a matter of
You
fact,
guys are-
those beers usually, all-grain beers usually are always in the top, you know, 5 in homebrew contests, so they are a superior beer.
Okay. And that beer contest, the Brewery Lane beer contest, I guess we'll call it. We haven't said all the details yet, but there is going to be a
No,
contest.
yeah, we're
Make your,
sponsoring a homebrew contest. It's happening in April, and it's open to all residents of Newfoundland and Labrador.
Yep.
And anyone can join, you know, and
Yeah.
all grain beers or malt beers.
Yeah.
Actually, we'll have a category for 2 different types.
For each?
Yeah.
Are there rules available at the store?
There will be rules available at the store. We're
Okay.
drawing them up now, and you know, anybody can drop at the store to get further details.
Okay, so just contact Brewery Lane. They will give you all the rules and the regulations and
Exactly.
the exact date of when it is. We've got just enough time to give you our address, which is, if you have any questions on home brewing, how to make an all-grain beer, a wine kit, a beer from a kit, you can drop us a line here at the Brew Club, care of Cable 9, 541 Kenmount Road, P.O. Box 8596, St. John's, Newfoundland, A1B 3P2. That's all the time we got left. Don't worry, next week we'll pick this right up from where we are right now. See you next week.